Simone de Beauvoir, The Second Sex. Dive into The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, a thought-provoking exploration of the historical and social factors that have contributed to the subjugation of women. Delve into topics such as biological differences, Freud's psychoanalytical theories, the rise of patriarchy, and the influence of religion on gender roles. This book's summary highlights the fundamental arguments against the implied inferiority of women, shedding light on the cultural beliefs and myths that have kept women in a perceived state of passivity and dependence on men.
Debunking the myth of male dominance. Despite biological and psychoanalytical arguments for the subjugation of females to males, these are unconvincing and unjustified. Cultural values that prioritize physical strength and male genitalia as the norm perpetuate a sexist society. The notion that males should have a superior status to females in society due to biological and psychoanalytical differences is an all too common idea. However, scrutinizing these arguments reveals significant flaws. While it is true that male attributes such as greater physical strength can be an advantage in certain contexts, valuing these traits above all else is arbitrary. In fact, cultures that prohibit violence show that physical strength is not always the ultimate determinant of power. Psychoanalytical theories have also been put forward to explain gender inequality, such as Freud's concept of penis envy. However, these theories are based on a male model and exalt male genitalia as the norm. This creates a false sense of superiority for males, rather than explaining why this should be the case. Ultimately, the subjugation of females to males is not justified by science or reason. It is a result of cultural values perpetuated through generations that prioritize physical strength and male genitalia as the norm. By debunking these myths and exploring the flawed reasoning behind them, we can work to promote equality and eradicate sexism in society. Rise and fall of matriarchal societies. Many prehistoric societies were matriarchal, where women were granted sacred status due to their role in bearing children. However, the shift to patriarchy led to the marginalization of women, relegating them to passive deities of immanence while men ascended into transcendence. The development of slavery pushed women out of the workforce, deepening the divide between men and women. While patriarchy couldn't eliminate the female goddesses altogether, it relegated them to passive roles. The idea of men as the prime mover and women as passive receptors was epitomized by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Male-created societies' impact on inheritance and property. In patriarchal societies, private property became the norm, leading to the exclusion of women from inheritance and ownership. The development of marriage only served to dehumanize women further. Control over family inheritance passed from father to husband, with women being viewed as property rather than individuals. This was exemplified by the ancient Greek institution of epichlorate and the practice of communal property shared by several men in Roman times. These historic practices continue to impact inheritance and property ownership today. Women's struggle for equality. Women have made significant progress in culture, politics, and education since the 15th century. However, up until the 19th century, most women continued to be dominated by marriage and societal roles. Women had no formal education and were not allowed to go to the universities. They gained access to male-dominated fields through literary salons. Women found their way into politics, such as Elizabeth I and Christina, Queen of Sweden. Although women were subjugated to men and earned less than men, those who bore children and tended to the home were also considered inferior. Women continue to struggle for equality. The impact of religion on women. Religion has played a significant role in the way we view women throughout history. Many religions have placed women beneath men since their origins, with examples from Judaism and Christianity's origin story of Adam and Eve. In this story, Adam is created to freely enjoy the Garden of Eden, but Eve convinces him to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge, leading to their expulsion, and making Eve responsible for the fall of mankind. This act reduces women to flesh and sin, with the view of female flesh being taboo in the Roman Empire, draining the strength of soldiers and devouring them. However, only prepubescent girls and older women are not seen this way. Female flesh is also associated with original sin, making every newborn guilty from birth. These views of women have led to the subjugation of women in society, and they continue to influence our views of women today. Myths about women. Many myths about women perpetuate their otherness and restrict their true representations. The use of oversimplified archetypes and benevolent myths serves to increase their otherness. Myths about menstruation perpetuate many absurd notions that women are out of control during their menstrual periods and can be dangerous to others. Similarly, female muses of Greek mythology portray the idea that women are beings that inspire rather than create works of genius. This idea promotes the notion that women are passive creatures that merely serve to inspire men's transcendent will. These oversimplified notions make it easy for men to disregard women's true identities and complexity. Rather than trying to understand women, men may think that women are inherently incomprehensible creatures. It is essential to disregard these myths and focus on creating a more accurate and equitable representation of women that portrays their true identities and complexities. The process of becoming a woman. The book explores how society shapes the identity of women from birth. When babies are born, they have no conception of gender. However, societal divisions create stark distinctions between boys and girls. Boys are encouraged to be independent and strong, while girls are treated as passive and dependent well into childhood. Girls are given dolls to play with, reinforcing the message that their role is to emulate their mothers and prepare for motherhood. This process not only shapes their self-perception but also creates a sense of shame around their bodies. The book suggests that understanding the impact of societal expectations on individual identity is crucial for women to break free from their passive role and become empowered individuals. The burden of being a girl. As girls grow older, they become increasingly aware of the limitations placed upon them by their gender. They desire the agency and possibility associated with the father's role, which stands in stark contrast to the confinement of the home. This desire is evidenced by a statistic: over 75% of girls want to be boys. The physical changes that occur in a girl's body, particularly the development of breasts and menstruation, serve as stark reminders of her otherness and the burden of being a potential child bearer. The experience of shame and taboo surrounding female genitalia further enforces the limitations and challenges faced by girls. The painful path to mature sexuality. The loss of virginity marks an initiation into the world of adulthood for both men and women, but for women, it's just the beginning of the painful journey to mature sexuality. Women are subjugated to male power, and the things that the male gaze consumes, like their breasts, hips, and flesh, only fuel their disgust. To take control over their bodies, many girls harm themselves. Sex roles are deeply rooted in common conceptions of sexuality, with male sexuality being expressed in active and militaristic terms. While women tend to focus on clitoral pleasures, the vaginal aspect of sexuality comes into focus only when man conquers woman. This further emphasizes women's flesh as immanence that can only feel pleasure through the transcendence of man's activity. The dual nature of pregnancy. Pregnancy has different symbolic meanings in a patriarchal society. For men, it represents their transcendent power over women; for women, it deepens their immanence by subordinating their needs to that of their child. Before birth, the needs of the fetus take over and replace feelings of transcendence with cravings, nausea, and sore breasts. However, pregnancy also creates a sense of togetherness for some mothers. But after giving birth, a heightened sense of isolation can occur because the child no longer belongs to the mother, but the mother belongs to it. Despite this, becoming a mother can release women from the burden of being an erotic symbol for men. The symbolic value of the breast changes, from an object of male desire to one of care, food, and comfort. This shift allows women to breastfeed without feeling ashamed of their bodies when doing so in public. The unchanging plight of married women. The institution of marriage has not changed substantially for women, as they remain relegated to a passive role in society. Men are still considered the head of the household, with women expected to do most of the unpaid labor, resulting in the gender wage gap. In liberal societies, women continue to be trapped in a cage of domestic duties, denying them the opportunity to pursue personal fulfillment. Despite the subtle progress in this area, many still adhere to laws and beliefs that keep women under the absolute authority of their husbands. As such, the institution of marriage continues to serve as an obstacle to women's personal development and full engagement in society. Subjugation beyond money. The book explores how women are subjugated through the male gaze's pressure to appear desirable, leading to wearing uncomfortable clothing that emphasizes their fading youth and fertility. Unlike men, whose ideals of manliness and agency increase with age, women's desirability wanes as they grow old, leading to the regression of dressing younger. However, if women accept their aging and stop resisting time, they can free themselves from the yoke of being a woman. This liberation comes too late for most women to enjoy it, as they are no longer regarded as desirable objects and no longer obligated to care for their families. The inescapable exploitation of women in prostitution. Marriage and motherhood may define femininity, but unmarried women find themselves shackled to a male-dominated culture, as evidenced by prostitution, a form of servitude through female sexual exploitation. Although some consider prostitutes free, they are actually more vulnerable to further exploitation and societal vilification that enforces traditional gender roles. Poverty and lack of work are the main drivers that push women to sell their bodies for capital. Historical evidence indicates that former maids and servants made up the bulk of prostitutes in times when domestic work became less lucrative. The author's argument reveals that prostitution does not liberate women but further reinforces patriarchal norms by dividing them and creating an inferior class to make monogamy more desirable. Women's liberation. Women may feel powerless to change their subjugated position in society, due to the messages fed to them from a young age, cultural limitations, and economic dependence. Despite global progress, women remain largely oppressed in many countries, facing voting restrictions and joblessness. Only by collective action can women break free from their bonds. Adopting traditional male roles will not bring the desired freedom because women will still find themselves trapped in a world run by men. Women need to focus on the economic situation of all women to achieve their emancipation goals.
In the comprehensive analysis found in The Second Sex, it becomes evident that the subjugation of women is largely due to societal constructs and beliefs, rather than any inherent differences between the sexes. Despite significant progress over the years, women continue to face inequalities stemming from historical and cultural viewpoints. The key takeaway from this book is the importance of recognizing these disparities and working towards collective action that can help emancipate women and challenge the dominance of patriarchy. Remember, only through unity and focused effort can society begin to dismantle these deeply ingrained ideologies.